So you want to learn how to script in Python in Modo. Well, the place to start is the wiki. So I'm going to the wiki. That's sdk.luxology.com. And in previous videos, I have shown you a lot about the command system. So in general, you have command system. If I open that, you see you have some topics that I have covered: the basics, executing commands, executing scripts. This one, very important, querying commands, also query operators and aliases, and you have other interesting stuff over here. But when you start out, you're probably going to want to find the functions you can use, and one part, and that's the new API, is over here. It says TD SDK. When I open this, you see you have Modo's TD SDK documentation, and over here you have all the classes like scene, item, channel, dialogues, and so on. When I open this scene module, for instance, you can see the scene module, the scene class with all its functions, for instance add camera and so on. And there is a link to source. When I open that one, you're going to see the source code of add camera. It's up here. So this is the definition, the source code of add camera. So I wanted to show you that for the new API, you can select TD SDK over here. And for the old API, you might think that's the link above, but that will not bring you to the old API. You actually have to go to scripting. So when you open that one, then over here you have supported languages and then Python. When I select this one, now I have an overview of all the functions in the older API, like the LX module, the script query service, error handling, and so on. A bit further in this page, there is an important part about the old and the new API. So it says that the old and the new one can be mixed, but it is important to be aware that all commands can only be executed at certain times when it is safe. And the new Python API is usually much faster than command queries. And for these reasons, you will likely find that lx.eval and other functions in this article aren't used as much anymore. So from now on, the new API will be the API that you will use most, and this is over here, the TD SDK, so I've shown you earlier. So let's create a first script in Modo. I am in the scripting layout, and as you can see, I already have typed in a few lines of code, and they are about modo.scene.sceneList. That's a class you can find in the new API. When you go to the wiki, you have your TD SDK left of here, you click that, and then you scroll down and you have scene module. When you click that page, you have your scene class, and in my program, when I uncomment this, and I'm pressing Ctrl/ on the numpads to comment and uncomment. So I have declared a variable varscene, and I'm assigning a list to it, and it's a modo.scene.sceneList, and this will add all the scenes you have open. So right now I only have one scene open, so this list will only contain one index. And let's now add a camera to that. I'm going to the same API, and in the scene class you have a portion to add camera. So it adds a new camera item to the scene. So it returns a camera item, it says the return type, and parameters, you can give it a name, and that will then be the name of the camera. So the notation is add camera, and optionally the name between round brackets. So back to Modo, I'm going to uncomment this line. So now I'm going to say that for the first item in the list that has been returned, so var_scene square bracket 0 square bracket dot add camera round brackets. And let's test this. First I'm going to press Ctrl W to clear my scene, and in the Python editor I'm going to click on this icon to run my code, and you see now in the item list a second camera has been added. Now if I do the same, for instance, I'm doing Ctrl C and Ctrl V and specify another index, now I will get an error, of course. Like you see, file string line 8 in module, list index out of range, because the list that has been returned only contains one item. I have only one scene item open. I cannot execute this code. If I were to press Ctrl N for a new scene to open, so now in the item list you can see I have two scenes. Now this will work, and first I will press Ctrl W to go to my default state, again Ctrl N to have two scenes with one camera, as you can see in the item list, clear my output window and then clear my log, run the code, and now you can see in both scenes a camera has been added. And as we've seen in the wiki's reference, you can actually specify a name. So for instance, when I run this code again, but this time in the second scene, the scene with index 1, I'm going to specify a name for the camera to add. So quotation marks, because it needs to be a string, and I'm going to call it, for instance, new camera. Now when I execute the code, clear the window first and execute the code, again in my first scene a third camera has been added with a default naming. So there was a camera 2 and a camera already, so it has named it camera 3. But in my second scene I have added a camera with the name new camera. Now this is a very simple example of a simple script to add a camera to your scene or to multiple scenes like in this example. And what I want to say about hard coding these indices, it's usually bad practice. Usually it's better to do some tests and to make sure that your index will not get out of range, so that you will not get an error. And if you do get an error, that you intercept that error, so otherwise your script will fail. But I think this is a good start for a first script in Modo.